So St John's Garden is a tiny woodland park right by Farringdon Station, which is one of the busiest stations in the whole world, probably by now. And it's a highly nature-deprived area. Oh, I have to do this myself, don't I? So how do I do that? Go forward, just like that, yeah. So the Friends of St John's Garden is a group. We've got 5 people on the committee. We're all volunteers. We've got a couple of hundred people working along with us. None of us are experts in any of this kind of stuff, but we're working alongside experts who we reach out to and in partnership with our local council, which is Islington, and with many other bodies. So what happened was, a couple of years ago, there was a community meeting at which the park was discussed, and apparently someone said, oh, St John's Garden, birds, don't think there are any there. And I'm no expert at all, but I live kind of a couple of hundred metres from the park, and I dropped in a note and said, well, actually, I think there's probably about 12 species, and I listed them out, not proper records, just things I happen to have seen over the years. And not long after that, the head of the local Friends group, Sarah, who's sitting in there, said, well, hold on, why don't you take up the role of biodiversity lead in the Friends group? And I thought, well, I don't think I can do that because I haven't got any expertise. But then we talked about it and we decided, well, actually, it's probably better to have somebody rather than nobody. And there are tons of experts out there who we can reach out to and engage with. So we'll have a go. And the first thing we did, we got together, little committee, and thought, well, what we probably need to do is try and establish a baseline of how good we are right now. So in terms of biodiversity, we read in on things like the local borough biodiversity plan, City of London biodiversity plan, things like that. And we thought we want a baseline. How are we now? So that as we try and do things in the park to make it better, we know where we started and what we're aiming for and how we're doing along the way. So we started with, so we started with birds, which is sort of where I was starting from, and we applied to eBird and asked them, can we have a hotspot on our park? Because I think the normal hotspots, they're actually the London Bird Club, aren't there? There's a lot of hotspots that are established in London Bird Club locations. Our park wasn't one of them, and we wanted to be specific about our park because that helps us create data that we feel like we own and can be sort of actionable from our point of view. They said, yeah, set one up, and we got cracking. My idea was that I wanted to set something up that would allow bird watching to be something that the whole community could get involved with and try and generate some sort of proper record. And it's over a year on now, and we've had loads of people going around with Merlin, listening and learning bird calls. Lots of us have learned absolutely loads from just this little thing. And we've now got over a year of records where we've done a complete survey of the park more than once a week, sometimes if I've not got too much work on, etc., like more than one a day, even going down and doing a complete survey. And that's actually one of the joys of being small. You can do stuff that you can get your arms around things much more easily than if you were launching out into Richmond Park or something. Anyway, so we started with birds. How to expand into other areas? Well, we found this survey kind of for beginners done by the Urban Nature Network super helpful because it laid out all the different citizen science activities that we might get involved in to get us started with bees, wasps, pollinators, or worms, or whatever. And we've only got limited, we're all volunteer, we only got limited time, so we picked one survey per quarter and just pitched in and got involved with the pollinator monitoring scheme, doing fit counts and we did the big butterfly count, things like that. I mean, it can feel like you're scratching at the surface in a way, but at least we kind of got off the starting blocks. And what we did was share the results of what we were finding locally within our community. So we've got a newsletter, we're really active on Instagram, so we were in real time sharing news about what's going on. So for example, we shared the good news, like, oh, go and look because the robins have just, the fledglings are out and it's lovely. And we shared the bad news. We've been watching some blue tits feeding their young and they suddenly disappeared, so the whole family must have died. We had 0 butterflies, and for the pollinator monitoring scheme, actually, there's a list of plants you're supposed to try and find and then use. We had none of those. Or we did, we had the buddleia, but ours didn't flower, and the hawthorn, that didn't flower either. So we realised, in a way, by trying to do things, you realise what you've got. You are observing, it may not be scientific level, but you are observing, and then it helps you think what to do to improve what you've got. So, on the subject of improving, we decided to contact GiGL because we wanted to be a bit better at doing our recording, and Lindsay at GiGL supported us, especially in sort of branching out into other taxa, apart from we started with birds. Apparently everyone starts with birds and then nobody does the other thing. So we got a lot of help from GiGL. They put us in contact with the Friends of Finsbury Park, another friends group. Finsbury Park is about 100 times bigger than our park, and they're miles ahead of us in terms of doing a better job of the monitoring. They shared some of their practices and the tools they were using, and we literally could copy some of their tools. So we actually discussed about apps, because I've been really baffled. We tried to research which apps would help us. We're using eBird, but what else? And we've actually just gone straight to spreadsheet, and that was probably completely wrong, but we're using the spreadsheet, which we can then just send into GiGL with photographs where we can, and we hope for the best. And I know eBird goes through them in a big cut through London Versus. So we're trying to make sure we're improving our quality of what we're doing and ensure it's going to the right place. But obviously, we've only just started. However, we have only just started, but we can already use what we've got. What we wanted was a baseline. We've got little scraps of that, and that meant that we could start to set some goals what we wanted to achieve. So, for example, in terms of birds, we quickly got to 13 species in the park. And we wanted to know how good is that, and I quickly looked across things online and found a nice biodiversity report done by Buckingham Palace Gardens. Oh, I wonder how many birds they've got. Oh, 30 was what I read. I thought, oh my goodness, we could get there. We, little easy one, could actually get to Buckingham Palace. And we looked at neighbouring green spaces to see what birds they've got that we hadn't got, so that we could either go and catch them and bring them in, or that was my husband's idea, sort of start driving them like beetles. Create habitats that would entice them in. And we realised that if we built that habitat, we could probably aim for sparrows, we might get starlings. There were long-tailed tits in the adjacent park, and we've never seen one, but maybe could attract species like that. So it gives, I think, because we were monitoring and aware of where we are and where we're sort of aiming to go, it gives a higher sense of purpose, so that when you're there doing your dead hedge, and it's quite a lot of work, isn't it, getting people out and everything. Sarah, my colleague, does a huge amount of work just mobilising people to come and do the work. It's a massive effort to get a community out, and it helps to be able to tell stories about what we're trying to achieve and put it into a much bigger context. It's not just our little park, it's our community across EC1, and then it's the whole much bigger London and beyond. Anyway, we are small, but we're connecting with other groups. So, for example, we were actually doing a project together with Pollinating London Together. That's the people in the city of London itself looking at pollinators. What we're doing with them is there are no gardens where we live on the ground, but there are roof gardens. We talked about gardens, I guess, question earlier on. there are roof gardens, so we're working with Pollinating London together to try and evaluate the extent to which roof gardens can help for stepping stone type, creating corridors between a little park like ours and connect up towards the River Lee eventually, because that's kind of in our direction in North London. So that slide. what have we learned? Well, we've reached out to a lot of experts and got an awful lot of help, but we're only amateurs and we've made mistakes. So, for example, the whole Buckingham Palace thing, that was wrong. So Buckingham Palace has got 30 species of breeding birds, not just birds, and obviously that makes a massive difference. But never mind, counting things does kind of help, and you learn as you go. And we like the fact that in a little park we can try and see the impacts of the little, and in fact some of the bigger investments that we're making. So we're now planting the park with a lot more bird-friendly and pollinator-friendly species, and we're putting in a little pond, and we're really excited to carry on monitoring now and see what we can see happening in response to the interventions that we're making. Maybe they won't work, but maybe they will. Because we've got some data, not very good, but some data we'll know. And actually, coming back to the whole Buckingham Palace thing, if we connect together, and quite a lot of people have mentioned it this morning, perhaps our park is too small to match the density and the biodiversity of Buckingham Palace Gardens, but maybe EC1, if we connect with other, maybe EC1 we could aim to get 30 breeding birds in we've got 5 in our park, so it's quite a good start. So we see very much the benefits of catalysing activities in our immediate neighbourhood. And in fact, just a couple of weeks ago, another group has started 500 metres away from ours, spawned by us. So it's really encouraging that this kind of thing can happen. So thank you very much for listening, and thank you to everybody who's helped us so far, and please follow us on Instagram. Thank you very much.